Hey y'all, this week we watched the movie Chungking Express, and it was directed by Car Y Wong.
Car Y Wong.
Car Y Wong.
1994, written by him as well.
Mm-hmm. And this week we're going to be reviewing this movie. This was a really weird movie.
Let's just be honest and say we watched a video on this to get the kind of overarching
yeah, because there was definitely some... We were definitely misconstrued, especially with the two-part style they did.
Huge narrative changes, which I generally like. I kind of fell apart in this one, to be honest. Yeah. It gets a little confusing. You see, it goes a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So our first character.
There's four main characters that we follow throughout this movie. The main guy that I think sold me on the movie was
Ho Chi Mu.
Ho Chi Mu.
Yeah.
And he had just been broken up with. We see throughout his scenes he's coping with this breakup by trying to find a new girlfriend.
Kind of an insomniac. He's up all night at his favorite restaurant, calling on the phone,
eating lots of pineapples because his
ex's favorite.
He said he would buy a tin of pineapple every day for 31 days, and then if she didn't take him back by then their love had expired.
Yeah,
he always looked for the
expiration. There's a ton of meaning in all the scenes for this. Like everything, usually there's like an object that identifies the feeling of the character. You have Faye with fish. I feel like she's like trying to cope with the concept of adding herself into this guy's life. Yeah. I don't know if really just the fact that I'm working backwards, but the second guy we'll see as we continue, 663, he keeps his apartment like out of date, and also like his ex is a air hostess, so maybe like fleeting love because he's in love with somebody who leaves him, and there's a lot of airplane iconography there, and then the pineapples for Ho Chi Mu. Sorry.
They're
just trying to get the meaning still.
So this movie was a comedy/romance. At first, I couldn't really tell the comedy notes.
It starts really dark,
which
too.
I think, and
it's also Asian comedies, I would call a little more quirky.
I think it's partly the language barrier, but going on, I could definitely decipher what they were saying, and what was meant to be funny and what wasn't meant to be funny. But yeah. This movie really took a weird approach by... It was almost like two short films. The first 30 minutes I was very entertained with the first 30 minutes.
So Ho Chi Mu, sad about his ex, decides I'll fall in love with the next girl that walks into here.
And then we get the lady in sunglasses.
Yeah, this lady in sunglasses comes in. She's wearing a blonde wig. And on in the side scenes as we're learning Ho Chi Mu's kind of situation... She's a drug lord of some sort. She's collecting passports for these guys so that she can sew drugs into them and move them on. So I think overall, he wants to fall in love with the next girl, and she's not right for him. Yeah. But he ends up meeting her later, as the plot lines start to split, and she's passed out at the bar pretty much. So he takes her home and takes care of her, and then she sends him kind of a thank you, happy birthday message. Yeah. And that's what makes Ho Chi Mu decide to move on. Mm-hmm. I think really the only laugh out loud we had was, I think they go back and forth a little bit. He talks about how his ex May liked jogging, but he feels like you should jog for a reason. Yeah, and finally his reason is to get over May.
His jogging was certainly a comedic part of that movie. His jogging was sprinting in a small circle. It was kind of funny. Originally, I thought the movie from the title Chungking Express, I thought it was going to be like an underground criminal type movie.
In the way it starts.
In the first 30 minutes, we did get that. The woman in sunglasses. She was kind of running like a sweatshop where the Indian immigrants she had would, put drugs into items of clothing, and she walked around like she was like a clothing
kind of like a
clothing salesman,
designer.
fashion designer, yeah. And she ends up getting ripped off, and this is how, we see it go over her story for a couple of days. She's just stressed out, can't cope with anything, and then eventually she meets Ho Chi Minh in the bar, and
after like killing a bunch of people, we get like 5 or 10 minutes of almost like action movie level stuff, for almost no reason plot wise. I don't want to say I have complaints about this. I think there's some really pretty stuff, but the plot felt like a mess to me. We can say it's interesting. But I don't know. It was almost a little too divided for something like a love story.
Yeah.
But so she's like goes on kind of a murdering spree, and then ends up drunk in the bar.
Well, originally we see the Indians trying to kill her.
Yeah.
Because they know she's looking for the people who stole her drugs, and then all that happens after her and Ho Chi Minh, kind of like are in the bar together, and like we can tell they become friends of some sort. She murders that guy that is having sex with a prostitute with a wig on. That was a really weird scene. I feel like it never got explained to us, but I'm guessing that man was like, he was obviously involved with the drug circuit somehow.
He kind of ran the bar there. Yeah. That was where a lot of the sketchy stuff was going down. So maybe he sold her out. Yeah. Maybe the girl he was making out with her
maybe that was
wig was him selling her out.
Or something.
It feels like a mess to me. I'm sure it's some rewatches away.
I thought so. After this scene, which we only ever really get 2 of the main characters' names, we get Ho Chi Minh and Faye. Which Faye comes in the second phase of the movie.
So and he comes back to the bar after jogging, kind of turning his life around, and the food shop that he spends a lot of time in. The guy's always trying to hook her up, the owner of the food shop, and he's like, maybe you should meet the new girl that works here.
Talking about Cop 663?
No. This is like Ho Chi Mu's like his out pretty much is he's like, the new person who works here is a boy because she has short hair, so he like kind of ruins his chance immediately, which he does throughout the movie a few times. And he walks out, and Faye has short hair, but she's like a very beautiful girl. And I think the same night, like as he leaves, Officer 663 comes in. Immediately is attracted to this girl.
Only bit of parallel between the story we get, because the whole time I thought that we were gonna get this couple mixing or something, but we never really get that.
No, they're pretty separate.
So
they just go to the same food place.
After the woman in sunglasses shoots this man, which we can suspect is the rivaling drug lord, I guess.
The guy who two-timed her.
We get a completely different story.
She's gone. The drug plot's gone.
Yeah, and so is Ho Chi's plot, but we can kind of see that he gets over his breakup. I think that's kind of why they conclude his story to add in the factor of like broken romance and heartbreak, I guess.
He's like a bad relationship that's over and you still want to go back to it.
Yeah.
The new guy we're about to talk about, 663, is a good relationship that you want to return to but can't.
Yeah.
And then Faye is like someone who really wants to love but doesn't at the same time. She doesn't want to leave her single life, basically.
Yeah, so we'll quickly just go over 663. He's in a relationship with an air steward, and she ends up leaving him, and they kind of just break up real abruptly.
She's an air host, traveler, so she travels and she's gone.
And we see 663 going through this kind of dilemma in which he doesn't know what to do. He's almost more heartbroken than Ho Chi in some senses. He lets his apartment fall completely out of disarray, and Faye's watching this the whole time. Faye sees what's going on with him, and she wants to help, but like he said, she's not quite ready for a real relationship.
She's kind of on and off, and then in the third narrative switch, we started with Ho Chi Mu. During all of this stuff, we get narration and voiceover from 663, and then just for a short time, we switch to Faye, and she says, "I guess we'll bring up what I'll call the elephant in the room. I'm so sick of California Dreaming. But that's really representative also of Faye finding the right man, I guess, you know? And so we finally get this narrative switched to her, and she's always talking about the man and the other man in California, and says maybe 663 could be this guy, so I'll give him a year.
Yeah.
And after that, we get a second time that we hear California Dreaming as she cleans his apartment up.
I think at least 6 times I counted.
It was
6
insane.
to 7 times that movie or that song was in there, and maybe they just really liked that song.
Maybe they liked
China
the song.
in the mid-90s.
I also wanted to bring up, I can't imagine that China was a very easy place to make a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe they bought that, and they bought another kind of 90s era pop American song. And those two are like all you get for soundtrack for the whole movie, man.
Yeah.
Which that wore on me for sure. That's definitely...
The first time I heard it, I was like, it's been a minute since I heard this song. I really, this is good.
10 minutes later, you get it again.
But
Louder.
anyways, we see Faye dealing with this man she's attracted to, but she doesn't want a relationship with him. So
she can't figure out who the right guy is.
I couldn't really tell if she was just crazy because her, I guess they were using this for her comedic expression in the movie, the way she'd like move around and stuff. I kind of thought she was crazy, especially after sneaking into 663's apartment and kind of just living there for weeks while he's gone at work, day by day.
Once again, trying to feel out like what would it be like to be with this guy? Is this like my California Dreaming guy? She
spends the days cleaning up his apartment, and she finds one of the hairs from the old steward and cries about it and is all upset. So we get these weird scenes. Eventually she gets caught, and 663 knows there's something up.
And he's like pretty chill about it because he likes her too, right?
Yeah. And so we get that whole scene, and then 663 thinks, oh, maybe I should pursue this woman, right? As soon as he does, she leaves for California without telling him. And this is kind of like a heartbreak to him, but you can tell he's already been through the ringer so much that he's kind of like, oh, whatever, but it kind of helps him get on, right?
Yeah. And then I think, unless it's another time jump, because there's a lot of these too in the plot, but he ends up running into the stewardess.
Yeah.
And she's like still attracted to him, but he knows it's done.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps absolve.
And you can definitely tell he's a bigger man in this moment. He doesn't pursue a relationship or anything with her, and she tells him, she's like, that's my boyfriend out there, and you get this like real cool Chinese dude on a nice motorcycle.
Yeah.
And,
but she's also still flirting with him pretty clearly.
Flirting with him really hard, and he deals with it very well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, I think. He's like, oh, that's the type of guy you're into? And she's like, well, I am now. And he's like, glad I met you here. Yeah. Basically, I don't want that type of girl kind of vibe you get from the whole thing.
And then we get Faye returning from California, and she's like, it's not what I needed to be in California, and they kind of reconcile. And the movie kind of just ends on him opening the letter, right?
Yeah.
And that's
can he even read the letter? I don't think he can even read it because it's wet. I think at the end he doesn't care.
No, right? He throws the letter away. That's what it is. He doesn't read it. He throws it away, and that's kind of like the movie telling us that he's over. He's done.
It's like I had a good time with the stewardess.
Yeah,
or whatever her name was.
His heart breaks over, and I think from this movie we can really get a sense of like the evolution of a breakup, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, from a few different perspectives. So to get into the filmmaking aspect, because that's honestly, I'm probably never going to watch this movie again. I recognize the quality of it, but I did not enjoy a lot of it, especially California Dreaming. But
the action scenes, they use a lot of the low frame rate and
it's like a slow mo, but it's a real patchy slow mo with like blurs. It's almost like a bunch of stills, like a moving like a moving photograph.
Yeah,
and then you get a bunch of those.
And you can tell they use that for whenever there's an action scene. Obviously they're using that to kind of up the ante, I guess.
Yeah, which is a super 90s thing to do. Mm-hmm. It was really pretty in some aspects, but I got pretty tired of that's just not an editing I like. Now, there were some fun shots of, I really liked there was a still of 99 or 663 on the jukebox, and it freezes time. He has pretty much a still frame with lots of people passing, kind of showing that he's in thought. There were some really fun decisions made, and honestly the narrative thing I think was a fun way to spin it, but it just kind of muddled the movie for me. I like that stuff. I mean, I'm a fan of the way Quentin Tarantino's movies, especially the early ones, went.
It was cool. I think the lack of them reconnecting the stories was kind of just where it
left you hanging a little bit.
It left us hanging because we were expecting to get some deeper, or at least our viewing party were expecting to get some deeper answers, and then we were kind of just left with the meaning of love, romance, but the comedy, even though it was completely in a different language, I thought it was good. Yeah, I got a couple really nice laughs out of that movie.
I haven't seen. This might be one of very few Chinese films I've seen, but some of the quirkiness of the comedy beats reminded me of Korean movies.
Yeah.
Also, the very dramatic editing reminded me. I wanted to know if maybe Park Chan-wook of South Korean filmmaking, Old Boy, Decision to Leave, some really good movies I love, does a lot of that where it's interpersonal. There's not a ton of action, but the drama still gets shot with slow-mo intensity. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, if this is an influence of his moving on. I think he was working during the 90s, but I don't know if it was as early as 94.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the high drama on kind of low stakes, other than the drug dealer scenes. But the slow-mo stuff, a little too epilepsy warning for me in this movie.
Yeah, it was definitely dramatic on the eyes, that's for sure.
Yeah. Fun and flashy, but the overarching story didn't impress me enough. So this is the first bad review I think that I'll give anyways for these. And enjoyed some of the aspects. I'll take its influence. I think I was more almost interested by the influences that an 80s movie, where is the friend's house, coming from a country that's not big on making movies. Yeah. That kind of impressed me more than this. And I also think I just kind of hate editing in the 90s, to be completely fair.
I can see that, yeah.
They did a lot of stuff that's probably warped its way into some modern filmmaking in good ways, but a lot of the 90s is so brash and just so direct and in your face. It is fun to watch a low-stakes kind of romance comedy that uses those. Yeah. But overall, not one I loved. I think you probably agree.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I want to thank you all for viewing our last movie, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, the last movie of the 8 weeks. But it's been a blast, and I want to appreciate you all's viewing time.
Thank you.
Later.